Michelle Wolf, you are nominated at the Emmys for your stand-up special, Michelle Wolf, Nice Lady, and you've had quite an incredible year. I want to just ask, as a general thing, what made you want to get into stand-up?
Well, I started out doing improv, and then I ended up getting into stand-up because, well, first of all, I didn't really like how at the end of an improv show, it was gone. You know, like you can't recreate it; it's just gone. There's nothing to build off of. You might have had the best show you've ever had, but it's not there anymore. And then I also think, like, some people suggested I go into stand-up, which I think was their nice way of saying, like, you're maybe a little selfish. And as soon as I got into it, I was like, this is really more my speed.
And so, yeah, you started with improv and then stand-up, and from there led to gigs writing for Late Night with Seth Meyers and The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. And you've done some great segments on The Daily Show. I'm wondering, is there a particular segment that you've done on that show that you were particularly proud of?
I really love the one on The Daily Show we did of Kellyanne Conway, where we like dissected what she does. That was really fun. I remember there's a Bill Cosby joke. I don't remember the exact word, but there's a Bill Cosby joke we did in there that's one of my favorite jokes ever. It's really.
Oh God, I'm remembering that one. I can't remember the exact wording, but I'm gonna have to look that one up again.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that you've been doing, that you've done, is you also helped out Seth Meyers when he was doing the Emmys, and Chris Rock at the Oscars. What was it? 3 years ago. Yeah. What were those experiences like for you in as a writer and writing behind the scenes?
The Emmys was really neat because that was kind of my first real big Hollywood thing. You know, like I had been writing for Seth, but that's in New York. You know, the Emmys are like, and you know, I had only been to LA a handful of times, and to be backstage for that and stuff. The Oscars was really fun. I mean, it was the year Oscars So White, so we had a whole monologue written. And you know, Chris lives here in New York, or New Jersey, but he was going up at the Cellar all the time working on it, so I was working on it with him. We had like a whole monologue, and then the Oscars So White thing came out, and we were like, we got to write a whole new monologue.
Because he was named the host of the show before the nominees came out, right?
Yeah, before the nominees came out. So then, you know, all of a sudden this thing happens, and we're like, oh my God, people are going to want him to solve racism in his 8-minute monologue, which isn't even his job. But that was really neat because backstage at the Oscars during the taping, he had me and then 3 of the other writers plus Dave Chappelle. We were literally backstage, like right there in case we needed to give him a joke at the last minute. And stupid me, I'm wearing these brand new high heels that weren't that comfortable, of course. And so I, like, after like 3 minutes, I was like, I can't think of jokes with these heels on. So I threw off the heels. So it's me barefoot backstage at the Oscars when like it's everyone else is looking the best they've ever looked, and I'm just like slopping around in bare feet. Leonardo DiCaprio has come by. My feet are like so dark on the bottom. It's really.
Well, if there's any consolation there, I think Chris Rock solved racism.
I do. Yeah, I think it's gone. I haven't seen any examples.
But I loved those jokes. Like I think probably the best one was, you know, Hollywood is sorority racist. I think that was the line of the night.
That was my joke.
Oh my God, that was your joke. That was so great.
Yeah, I don't sometimes I feel bad for taking credit for jokes, but that one was mine.
No, you got to take all the credit you can. Just take it all. I love the movie theater bit where he's outside the movie theater, and my favorite was asking that one guy, "What's your favorite movie?" And the one guy, the hat, the sunglasses, just goes, "Superfly."
That's like classic Chris Rock doing. That is, I mean, It is so funny. He's like one of the few people that I think really nails man on the street like that.
I'm wondering also, what's that dynamic like where you're working with a comic who is basically like a stand-up legend in their own field. What's that dynamic like, trying to write? Is it a collaborative process? What's that like?
Yeah, it is very collaborative. And I didn't really know Chris before this. Like Hannibal Buress actually recommended me to work with him. And the one day I was working with Seth, and the one day I got a voicemail on my phone being like, hey, it's Chris Rock, with that very distinguishable voice. And I was like, I remember freaking out a little bit and going to Seth. I was like, Chris Rock just left me a voicemail. What do I do? And he was like, well, you call him back. So I didn't, when we started working together, I didn't really know him. So, with Seth, I always felt very comfortable pitching jokes, and, because sometimes you have to pitch 10 bad jokes before you get a good joke in there. And, like I have a fun relationship with Seth where we make fun of each other all the time. So I didn't know what that was going to be like with Chris, because, he's a legend. Not to say Seth's not a legend. I mean, he's not, but I'm kidding. Yeah. So, I mean, the very first time I met him to start working on stuff, I immediately was just like, oh, this guy likes when you pitch him ideas, and he's fine if you suggest things, and he's very open and collaborative. So, yeah, I just immediately got in there and was like, what about this? What about this? How's this tag? And it was really fun because you'd work on jokes together. And that was, mind blowing for me to do that with Chris Rock. Because, now I've become friends with him and toured with him. But then I was like, I can't believe I'm working with Chris Rock. I can't believe I'm pitching jokes to Chris Rock and he's saying, I like that. It was very surreal. But it is one of those things where you just have to be bold, and you can't be scared, and you can't be worried that someone's going to be be like, that's dumb. It's like, yeah, probably is. I mean, you have to be not afraid to be dumb, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no fears.
Yeah.
No fears. Well, it's interesting that you bring up no fears, because I do want to bring up, ask you a couple things about the thing that probably led you to be more widely known than you already were, and that was your stint as the comedian at the White House Correspondents Dinner here in Washington, D.C. at the legendary Washington Hilton.
Beautiful Washington Hilton.
Yeah, they have it at the Hilton. And first of all, I will say, I thought it was so funny. I was cracking up when I was watching it the next morning. The only reason I didn't watch it live is because I was probably out drinking that night. But yeah,
which is normal. That's what a normal person.
When you live in this city, you got to.
Right.
But I thought the delivery, everything was just great. What was your reaction to getting invited to perform at the White House Correspondents Dinner?
Well, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it at first. And again, I asked Seth. I got the call about it, and I asked Seth. I was like, they just asked me to do the Correspondents Dinner. Should I? And he goes, definitely. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll do it. But I know what kind of comic I am. And so immediately I was like, I'm not going to do it like Seth did it, which also, to be fair, was during the Obama years when things weren't as, didn't seem as dire. But I was like, I hope they, I tell a lot harder jokes than Seth does. I don't know. Maybe they didn't realize that was going to happen.
And well, it's interesting you bring up Seth had done it. But also, I think at the time you worked at The Daily Show, Hassan Minhaj had done it last year. Did you talk to him about his experience?
Yeah, I texted him about that, and because we're the only two people that have done it during Trump. So we're the two people that have done it without a president there. The other time a president wasn't there was Reagan when he was shot, but he phoned in.
At the Washington Hilton.
Yeah, shot at the Washington Hilton. And then he phoned in, which is,
when presidents need to make their mark, they go to the Washington Hilton.
Right, yeah. There's like a secret room in the basement of the Hilton for like presidents now. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so I texted him about it, and he was like, well, you got to be prepared for every scenario. If he says he's not going to go, if he says he's not going to go and then shows up, or if he says he's going to go. So like, you know, he said he wasn't going to go, but in my head, I was like, I have to be ready if for some reason he just shows up. And there was also like a rumor that Mike Pence might show up. So like, I really had to be prepared for like a lot of different scenarios, which was good. That was good advice that Hassan gave.
So as I said, you know, you did your routine. I thought the comedy was great. And then came the reaction. And the weird thing is, before we started this, I was telling you that I watched your special the other night. And I don't know what they were expecting, but watching that special, it was no surprise the material that you did. So for you, I'm wondering, what about the reaction surprised you the most?
I don't know. It did catch me a little off guard, only because I had been working on the set for the past month at the Comedy Cellar. So I probably did it 30 or 40 times. And never got like any like oohs or, you know, like, so I was like, oh, it's going well. And then in the room, I know it's a bad room. But I was most surprised that people thought I was talking about Sarah's looks, because I think people brought a lot of their own. I think it said a lot more about what they think Sarah looks like, than when since I mentioned her eyes, they were like, you're saying she's ugly. I'm like, what? No one.
Well, also, you also had the line about Aunt Lydia from The Handmaid's Tale, which when I heard it, I was like, oh, because of the policies that they're enacting. Yeah.
I'm also like, you don't call Ann Dowd ugly. Ann Dowd is a very attractive lady.
Damn right she is.
I was like, I kind of always wanted to reach out to her and be like, I hope you don't think that, because like, she's so, oh my God, she's amazing in that role, but she's also just like, I don't know, she seems like a nice person.
I could tell you she's very sweet. I met her in person. She's very
sweet.
Go on.
That was like, I was just like, oh, they didn't really listen to these jokes. I also knew it was sort of a diversion from the end point that I had made, you know, about they're profiting off of Trump. I assume that's why they latched onto that part, so people wouldn't pay as much attention to the end. But I would say by far the thing that surprised me the most, in a good way, was other comedians' reactions to it.
Yeah, that was actually a very heartening thing to see. You know, all these comedians from all over the spectrum, you know, rally around you. That had to be, you know, quite, I don't know what the word is, but like gratifying or reassuring for you.
Yeah, and it really just made me feel like, I mean, really in comedy, you know, you want people to come to your shows and like your stuff, but like you really want comedians to like your stuff, because we're by far the harshest critics of comedy. We've seen the most of it, and we'll be the first ones to tell you if something's hacky or whatever. And to have them all kind of rally around was like, it was like heartwarming. You know, like everyone, like all the late night shows doing a little thing on it, and then Chappelle doing his video, and then Letterman mentioning it in his interview. There are all these people that I was just like, I've always loved you and I've loved what you've done, and to have you talk about my comedy was like, I was like, this is the coolest.
So, as I said before, you are nominated at this year's Emmys. You'll be going as a nominee this year for Michelle Wolf, Nice Lady, your HBO special. What was your reaction when you found out that you'd gotten nominated?
Well, as per usual, I was like in the middle of doing something else. I was literally, we were in a rewrite for my show on Netflix. So I got the call and I had a minute to be like, hey guys, I got nominated. And then we were like, all right, we got to finish the show though, because we have a taping in a couple hours.
So there was no real time to really like savor it. You were trying to, get your show ready.
Yeah, which I feel like is like how everything goes for me. I'm always like, oh, that's nice. What? I still have to finish this.
Hey, that means you're working. That's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
And so, yeah, actually, you were just talking about your Netflix show. How did that come about? Because when did it debut in relation to the Correspondents Dinner? Did it debut before or after?
It debuted after it. It debuted.
But it was like right after, right?
Yeah, a month later, about.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I had just pitched a show to Netflix the fall before that. Everyone thinks I got, not everyone, but people think I got it because of the Correspondents Dinner. And I'm like, you know how long it takes to put together a TV show?
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been the fastest startup. I mean, building the set alone takes longer than that. But yeah, I pitched a show to Netflix last fall. Actually, I pitched it to them like the Emmy weekend last September, because everyone was in town for the Emmys, and so I pitched to all the executives, and they just gave me a show.
And what's it like doing that from week to week? Because most shows like that are Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday shows. Is there more time to breathe and sort of process things that are going on?
Well, I always thought, and sorry, I'm losing my voice, so it's very squeakier than usual, I think, which is terrifying. I've always worked on those daily shows, so I thought, oh, a once a week show, this will be so much easier. The problem with a once a week show is, for a daily show, you every day at like 6:30 or whenever you tape, you're done with the show. So you're done by 7:30 or whatever. With a weekly show, it was like, it just gave us more time to work on it. So, I mean, I must have been at the office from 10 a.m. to midnight every day, which was a lot more than I was at the other shows I worked on. I mean, also I'm the host, so it's like I should be putting in more time. But yeah, I didn't. I think it's one of those things, like the more time you have, the more time you'll use. Or there's a better saying than that, but
we understand though.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, listen, I can't thank you enough for this. We wish you all the best during this Emmy season.
Thank you so much. It's my first Google Hangout. It's very exciting.
All right. Don't close the window, but take care.
All right. Thanks.